Gather beneath ancient branches and winding forest trails to explore the sacred secrets that linger in the dark. Welcome, friends, to the Hollow and Bough podcast. So, in the last episode, we went over Norse paganism with Foxfyre. How are you two doing, Foxfyre, Bramble?
I'm
Doing
doing
good.
perfectly okay.
I love it. Everybody's here. Everybody's happy and here and able to record. It's beautiful. We're working with it.
Wonder if we're gonna have any, hiccups tonight.
Hopefully not, because
Oh my god.
I'm hoping not. I was very careful about everything. We are going into Egyptian mythology and a little bit of modern Hermeticism today, so hopefully we aren't like stepping on any no-go areas. So let's go ahead and start off with an opening prayer. Anubis, wearer of hearts, guide of souls through shadow and silence, you who walk the boundary between worlds, watchful guardian beneath the stars, we call to you to guide us tonight in seeking and sharing wisdom. With your steady hand, dispel fear. With your keen sight, show us what we must see. Let your voice whisper wisdom in the hush of night. Teach us to walk in balance, in truth, with a heart light as the feather of Maat. Anubis, lord of sacred thresholds, open the gate before us. May we pass with honor, guided by your presence, protected by your name. Duat Anpu. Hail Anubis. Okay.
Are you gonna be following kind of the same stuff I was talking about last week, or are you going you doing something a little bit different?
We're kind of following like the same grouping. So I have like some information about like their creation beliefs, a couple things regarding the afterlife. We're going to look into the creation of humans, the version of a flood story that is present in Egyptian mythos. I'm also going to go over like a risen from the dead savior type story. And we're also going to look at the world-ending apocalypse. So pretty much going over most of the same stuff, just like looking at it in the Egyptian mythology and culture.
Love it.
So the risen savior, just because I'm curious, is that the story of the first mummy, or is that a different story?
Yeah, that's the story of the first mummy.
Oh, I like that story.
Mm.
So, y'all feel free to like jump in with like questions or like anything as we go through. I will note that there are a couple different ones of these myths that have like different versions depending on what part of Egypt they come from. So, I'll note those as we go along. Like if there's one where it's like, oh, well, Ra did this in southern Egypt, but in northern Egypt they say it's Ta or something like that. I will try and note those as I found them. Sound good?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's get this party started.
So, first off, we're going to look at their version of a creation myth. Again, this is one of the ones that varies slightly by region, but the most widely known and accepted versions are from Heliopolis, Memphis, and Hermopolis, which are three of like the major religious centers that people used to worship at. And I'm going to look at the Heliopolitan version first. So, at the beginning of time, there was only Nun, the dark, watery chaos, an infinite, formless expanse. And from Nun, which I hope I'm saying right, rose Atum, the first god, a self-created being often associated with the sun. He emerged by sheer force of will, standing on the primordial mound that surfaced from the waters. Atum desired to create the world, and did so by generating other gods. He produced Shu, who was the god of air, and Tefnut, goddess of moisture, either by spitting or through asexual reproduction, depending on the retelling. Then Shu and Tefnut gave birth to Geb, the god of earth, and Nut, the goddess of sky. And in turn, Geb and Nut produced Osiris, Isis, and Nephthys, which we'll talk about a bit later. Now, in this story, these 9 gods are known collectively as the Ennead of Heliopolis. In the other 2 major versions, the Memphite theology attributed creation to the god Ta, which was the god of craftsmen and creative pursuits, who created the world through thought and speech. The third version that's most well known is the Hermopolitan Ogdoad, focused on 8 primordial deities, 4 male and female pairs, which represented chaos, darkness, invisibility, and primeval waters. The other version of this same creation myth that we talked about, the Heliopolitan creation myth, in the archaeological record, you either see references to Atum or to Ra, the sun god. So there's a little bit of interpretation, or individual interpretation. There we go. Individual interpretation available as to whether you think they are the same deity that was just known by different names, or if they were two very separate deities that were then kind of just made into Atum Ra or Ra Atum, which you see later on in the archaeological record. And if you see Atum and Ra merged, they've said that Atum represented the setting sun, symbolizing completion, twilight, and the god as he aged, his more wise form, and representing the beginning and end with the potential for chaos. And Ra was more the midday sun, powerful and life-giving ruler and sustainer of all creation. The reason you have that beginning and ending version of the Atum Ra is because Ra was said to have a journey through the sky during the day, and when the sun set, he would go through the Duat, or the Egyptian underworld. So each day he would sail across the sky in his solar bark, I hope I said that right, bringing daylight. And at night, when the sun set, he would travel through the Duat, where he confronted chaos in the form of the serpent Apep, or Apophis, depending on if you're looking at Grecian version or Egyptian. Each night, he would defeat Apep, ensuring that the sun would rise again in the morning, resymbolizing rebirth and the triumph of order and life over chaos.
Can I say something? Can you say a word out there for people who want to worship Apophis?
I do not understand why you want to, because it is literal evil incarnate. Like, it wants everything to be dead and everything to be chaos. So I don't understand why you would worship that, when if you want more chaos in your life, the Egyptian deity that would have been worshipped to more fit that domain, as it were, would be Set.
Yeah.
So I can understand people worshipping Set, worshipping, if you're going to go towards like chaos in like the Norse pantheon, it would be Loki. But Apophis is literally like, Apophis is what Christians say the devil is. Absolute
I've heard.
evil incarnate.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. So
So,
for all the TikTokers out there who claim to worship Apophis, please
do more research.
just take a beat, just do a little more digging. It's okay, but just consider doing a little more research.
It's also not something that makes it like, oh, I'm edgy, I'm worshipping Apophis. It's like, no,
It's like,
no.
no. No.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah. Like, honestly, in my opinion, maybe I'm just this way because Anubis is one of my deities, but like all of like the Egyptian horror movies where they're like, oh, the dead have risen and Anubis brought them back, and all these things where they're making Anubis into like an evil thing. You could just replace that with Apophis, because they would love that if like the dead were walking on the earth and like everything was chaos. That is what Apophis is.
Pour one out for the underworld gods. Anubis, Hades, Hell. They get so much bad press, and none of it is deserved.
Yeah, no. That's my view on people who worship Apep, Apophis, whichever you prefer to call it.
It's like in Christian witch land, it's like worshiping the dragon. It's like worshiping God's evil twin. Like, that's not a good thing, people.
Like, I'm all for like, okay, if you have, what is it, unverified
Personal no-see.
personal gnosis about, I think that Anubis likes chocolate, or I think that, what's another one I've heard?
Wouldn't chocolate kill Anubis?
That's
Oh,
the
'cause
fun.
he's another.
Yeah,
Because he's a jackal? I mean,
yeah.
he's canid. Why would you give Anubis chocolate?
I know, I'm like, if that's like somebody's like personal gnosis and that's like an offering they like to make, if that's between them and their deity and the deity's like amused by it or likes it, that's great. If your personal gnosis is the,
Apophis is just a misunderstood snake.
yeah, that, okay, I'm a book talk person. I really love books. I love everything about books. I've read a shit ton of them, all of it. And I'm all for like a redemption hero villain turned good arc, you know?
Hmm.
That does not apply to like that literally cannot apply to Apophis. Like it is literally like it is not needing redemption. It's not like this dark misunderstood thing. It is literally just that is what it is.
It's just bad. It's
Yeah.
bad, 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 bad. So I have a few questions actually. I want to know more about Anubis. Does he have personality?
Yes.
What is it?
I cannot speak for everybody who follows Anubis. He is, in my interactions with him, he's very serious about a lot of stuff. And like, there's that energy of like, okay, you know what you're supposed to do, now do it,
Hmm.
type stuff. But there's also a very almost playfully humorous side.
Hmm.
Like, when I
Didn't we one time say it was kind of like dark humor a little bit?
very much, yeah.
Yeah.
One time I was still very much in my raised Catholic, if you messed up, you have to make up for it. I have to fix these things. Like I forgot a offering and he's going to be so angry. I was still like in that early
Hmm.
development of my craft and everything. And so I went to a local metaphysical shop and I was like, okay, what should I get as an apology to put on his offering, like on his little area of my altar? I was going to get him like a crystal or something. And when I was going over to where they had like little carved crystals that look like onyx and stuff, like in their little Egyptian area,
Yeah.
and I was looking at them, one of the staff came up and was like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen you in here before. You bought the book on Anubis like a couple months ago, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I go there fairly often to collect herbs and things. It's bad, but it's fine. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I did buy that from you guys." And she was like, "Yeah, we just got this in." And it was this little Anubis plushie.
My God. That's cute. I love that so much.
And she put them up on the shelves and I was like, "Okay, cool. That's so cool." And so I'm like looking at these different like little onks and things still like, "Oh, that's cool." And I started getting like pressure on the lower back area of my head, like the occipital area, right near where your skull meets your spine and all that. And that's usually the area where when I'm working with or talking to Anubis, that's where the pressure is. So I was like, okay, weird, confusing. And I kept getting that pressure and it was turning into a really bad headache because I don't like to try and talk to my deities in public spaces. It just never comes out right. Like pendulums don't work properly. I've had some issues, so I don't talk to my deities in public spaces.
Hmm.
And I just kept getting a really bad headache until I turned around and I picked that up, and then it was gone immediately. It was honestly the weirdest thing that I have ever experienced. And one of the things where I'm like, okay, I can't make this up. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
But yeah, I feel like that is like his brand of humor. It's either really dark humor or it's like, you're being stupid here.
And I think something we also talked about at one point, because I asked you directly this, is how he feels about the sexualized art styles that a community has picked up on him. And you were like, he's not 100% amused by this.
No, the vibe I got was really, really? Okay, just do your thing, but
Rule
fine.
34.
Essentially, yeah,
Exactly.
that's my experience.
Yes. So I have another question. As far as the Egyptian afterlife goes, what were the most common beliefs?
How do you ask? Because that's actually the next little segment we're going into.
Okay, good.
You are fabulous. So, we're actually going into the Egyptian afterlife. It was one of the most richly imagined, if you look at some of the contemporary afterlives from the span of Egyptian culture, which spanned a very long time. Richly imagined and had very deeply significant aspects of their religion. It wasn't a vague spiritual realm, but a detailed journey that the soul would undertake to achieve eternal life among the gods, and was heavily influenced by morality and what they saw as moral. So first let's look into death and burial. When a person died, their body was mummified to preserve it for eternity, which was essentially, look, don't mind me, I can't talk, essential as the body served as an anchor for the Ka, which was the life force, and the Ba, which was the personality or the soul in the afterlife. The Ka needed offerings like food and drink to thrive, and the Ba was mobile and often was depicted as a bird with a human head, and they would reunite at night. But it was believed that other than that, the Ba would be able to go wherever was necessary in the Duat or around the burial site. It could move freely. Essentially, the Ka was the physical body, and then the Ba was the soul. The Duat was their version of the underworld. Souls entered the Duat, which was a realm filled with gates, guardians, rivers of fire, and other beings and souls. The deceased would travel through the Duat aboard a bark or boat, which mirrored the sun god Ra's nightly journey through the Duat to be reborn at dawn. So to survive this perilous journey, the soul would rely on magic spells, amulets, and passwords. And this is where the book, found in so many pyramids and burial sites, comes into play.
And pop culture.
And pop culture, yep. Pop culture took it and ran with it in a completely other direction, but that's okay. So this is the Book of the Dead, or if you directly translate it, it's the Book of Going Forth by Day. Now here's the really interesting thing about the Book of the Dead. When the first Book of the Dead was dug up, first of all, they had deteriorated a bit, so there were pages missing, a little bit hard to read in certain areas. Makes sense, thousands of years old and all that. But it was taken as a literal, there is one Book of the Dead. This is the Book of the Dead that everyone had in their tomb. And the archaeological record now that we're looking at all these different versions and all these different ones that we've found on different tombs, it's actually customized. There are certain things that are the same throughout each of them, certain spells that every single book would have, or passwords that every single book would have. But if you're a pharaoh, your book is going to be very different from the book of a farmer. You're going to have different things around those core spells and passwords because a farmer's life would have been completely different to the life of a pharaoh. And the book would match with your life because essentially once you passed through the Duat and you were judged by Osiris, which we're going to talk about in just a second, you would proceed on to live eternally your life. You would just be in a different form.
So in
Theory, could you make your own Book of the Dead? And have you made your own Book of the Dead? You personally.
You can make one for yourself. I don't know how well it would work because there's also certain things that have to have happened with your body for it to match perfectly. In mummification, they would remove like your brain and several organs and put them in jars around your mummy. So I don't know how well like it would work in like a functional sense. Like if you believe that you would go to the Duat and you would make that journey, you would also have to believe that yes, you do have to remove your heart from your body so it can be weighed, which I don't know very many funeral homes would do that nowadays because they would probably think, what the heck does this person want? This is crazy. I have not made my own Book of the Dead. But yeah, you could technically make your own.
Interesting. Okay.
So, next step was the final judgment, or being judged by Osiris. This has been the focus of a couple pop culture movies, like I don't remember. I don't really watch them very much. Have reasons. I don't really usually watch the Egyptian movies because it just
They
they
butcher it.
always portray sorry?
They butcher it.
Yeah, I'm like they always like certain deities as like bad or negative and it just I don't vibe with it.
Again,
I
pour one out for the
do
death gods.
Yeah, again. But it's been the focus of some of those movies and like one of the most recent ones, Gods of Egypt or something like that, I don't know, where they have a scene where there are all of these dead people going through a hall to be judged by Osiris and they had like all these extra other deities in there and I was just like, what's going on? But anyway, the soul would face final judgment in the Hall of Maat, and Osiris would be the one sitting there observing this judgment. Now, the Hall of Maat is literally a hall dedicated to Maat, which is the embodiment of truth and balance. Now, the soul would approach the scales, where Anubis would be there, to weigh their heart against a feather. So first, they would approach the scales, and they would have to make statements, a confession of innocence. They would declare their purity through negative confessions, such as, I have not stolen, I have not lied. They would go through like an entire list. I think I found one of common statements. I didn't. But yeah, negative confession. And once they made all of their negative confessions, I have not stolen, I have not lied, I have not cheated, etc., the heart would be weighed. Now, the reason that they would weigh the heart is they believed that the heart was the center of your being, that it was where your soul lived. So that is who you were in life and death is preserved in your heart. Like I said, Anubis would weigh it on a scale against the feather of Maat, which is the goddess of truth and cosmic order. Now, if the heart was lighter or equal to the weight of the feather, the soul was deemed pure and allowed to enter the eternal afterlife. If it was heavier, which they saw as it was burdened by wrongdoing, the heart would be devoured by Amit, the eater of the dead, which was a part lion, part crocodile, and part hippo. And yeah, once Amit ate your heart, your soul was obliterated. It did not exist anymore. You were gone. Because you broke the cosmic order, you were not truthful or honest. So that's why, another reason why I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to write my own Book of the Dead, because if I put stuff in there that's not like 100% accurate, that type of thing. So, if you were one of the lucky ones, and you had lived your life in a truthful way, in a moral way, then you would pass on to, I don't know how to say this very much, but it's Aru, or the Field of Reeds, which mirrored idealized Egyptian life. Lush, abundant, peaceful, and there the soul would live for eternity, reuniting with loved ones and dwelling among the gods.
Like
What?
Tiernanog.
Yeah, kind of. Very similar. It's funny, like, a lot of the afterlives have very similar aspects.
Hmm.
I wish we had a Greek practitioner to go into that, but maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, and the souls that lived in the Field of Reeds were also sometimes said to help Ra in his daily journey or nightly journey through the Duat against Apep. So, did I do
All right, let's see.
any questions on that section?
I'm trying to think. Knew this. Got all that. I got nothing else. I love it.
How about you, Foxfyre? Anything so far?
He's gone. It's fine.
We lost Foxfyre! Oh no!
We
It's
lost
okay.
him.
I was gonna say, keep going. You're good. You're good.
Okay. In that case, we're going to move on to the creation of humans, which again has, let me see, three main myths, depending on which part of Egypt you were in. Humans were believed to have been created by the gods through various symbolic and mythic acts, not just as creations, but as extensions of divine order, or Mat, which is another reason why they would weigh the heart against the feather of Mat, because it should balance against your divine self. So, the three traditions were the Heliopolitan tradition, the Elephantine tradition, and the Memphite theology. So the first one, the Heliopolitan, humans were created through Ra's tears. And now in this one again you see Ra and Atum used interchangeably in some written versions. So again, could be the same deity, could have been similar, I don't know. But we're going to say Ra's tears in this one. So, he created the world and the gods, and then he wept tears of joy upon seeing his creation, and from those tears that fell onto the earth, humans were born. And then Ra ruled as the first pharaoh, a divine king on earth, which also brought about the pharaoh's divine right to rule and all that. In time, humanity began to rebel against Ra because he was an eternal being, he was always there. We'll discuss that a little bit later because it plays into one of the other myths that we're going to talk about.
Can I say something again real quick?
Yes.
We get a lot of bodily fluids in Egyptian mythology. Like we got
Yeah.
Ra's tears, Ra's spit. We have Ra's eyeball creating Sekhmet.
Yeah, that's part of what we're going to talk about in a little minute regarding a flood myth. It's going to be fun. But yeah, there's a lot of like bodily fluids or organs and things going on.
Anyway, continue.
The second myth is the Elephantine tradition, where Khnum, I hope I said that right, it's spelled Khnum, Khnum, the divine potter, who had a ram's head and a human's body, created humans from clay on his potter's wheel. He shaped each individual's body on the wheel and would sometimes also be said to have formed their spiritual double, their Ka, at the same time, symbolizing each person's divine essence and combining them together, creating a living human. He was also thought, once, the first humans were made, he was thought to craft the bodies of children inside their mother's wombs, making him a god of fertility and birth as well as creation. And the third creation myth is the Memphite theology, and it is that Ta, the god of craftsmen and intellect, created everything, including humans, through thought and speech. So he made the world, humans, animals, everything all at the same time. And how they say it went is he conceived the world in his heart and mind, and then spoke it into existence using the power of divine words. Something that is, well, there's really three things that are the same throughout those three creation myths. The first thing is they're all created to maintain the cosmic balance, and they were all seen as parts of cosmic balance. They were seen as both servants and partners of the gods, especially through ritual offerings. So it was a given that you would worship the gods and that you would do their bidding as a human in the world. And the third thing is that every individual human was capable of achieving immortality through living morally and being buried using the proper burial rites. Do you have any questions regarding creation of humans?
Then they come to mind.
Perfect. In that case, we will move on to the flood story. The Egyptian mythology does have a flood-like myth. It's quite different from the world-destroying flood from Mesopotamian or biblical traditions. It's not a literal flood of water, but it kind of ends up being a flood of sort of water. We'll get to that part. It's a flood of divine wrath, an act of near total destruction of humanity by the gods.
This is where we get Sekhmet, isn't it?
Oh yeah, who I also worship, and she's awesome. So in the distant past, Ra would rule as king of the gods and men. He was the first pharaoh. As he aged, which of course took a long time because he's a god, humanity began to rebel and plot against him, forgetting that he was a god. Kind of a problem. So, essentially created the Eye of Ra, which was a powerful feminine force, and he convened the gods, including some of the first gods, Nun, Shu, and Tefnut, to decide what to do. And all of them agreed and advised him to punish humanity and remind humanity that the gods were gods. They were divine and had godlike powers. So, Ra sent his eye, which took the form of Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, usually associated with war and vengeance, though she is also a goddess of healing and pestilence as well. He sent her down to Earth. And when Sekhmet arrived on Earth, she began slaughtering humans in a frenzy, bathing the entirety of the land in blood. So it was a flood of violence, not water, that threatened the humans with total indiscriminate destruction and annihilation. Yeah. So after seeing this and seeing that humanity was almost completely wiped out, Ra grew remorseful and again convened the other deities to try and find a plan to stop Sekhmet, because she was in essentially like a blood frenzy and was not thinking or stopping at that point. So depending on which written version you follow or read this myth, I've seen two different versions so far. Either Thoth, who is the god of knowledge, or Ta, the god of creators, who is also said to be Sekhmet's partner. One of those two came up with a plan where they tricked Sekhmet by flooding the Nile and the fields with beer that had been dyed red by pomegranate juice to resemble blood. And she drank it, became extremely intoxicated, and fell asleep. And when she woke up, she was no longer in a blood frenzy rage, and humanity remained alive. Now, depending again on which version you read of it, she also, at that point, turned into Hathor. So, it's either she turned into Hathor, or she stayed Sekhmet. Depends on which myth you read. But
Thor,
that
the
is,
childbirth goddess?
yeah, Hathor is, I believe, the Egyptian goddess of childbirth and women. Motherhood, queenship, childbirth, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, that is the Egyptian version of a flood myth, kind of. Any questions on that one?
I'm thinking. You know, every time I see someone talk about Sekhmet, they always they always portray her as like Ant Browningly terrifying, and now I know why.
That is completely. She is very active. We can say that. She's very active. She's
Exuberant.
very exuberant. She's very much a doer, not a stop and think about this, that, and the other. Sekhmet is in modern beliefs. A lot of people who worship Sekhmet are looking for change. They're looking to become something or help change themselves from one way to another.
Kind of like Loki in a sense.
Yeah, and it makes sense that there would be deities for that in different religions. Sekhmet is said to like use fire, like you'll go through fire and become forged anew, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I had. That's all I got. I have no more questions.
So basically, they flooded the fields of the Nile with pomegranate juice.
It was beer that had been dyed red because not only was she like completely annihilating humanity, she was also drinking the blood.
Got you. So it's kind of like thinking, as I'm sitting here thinking about it. It was kind of like the same reason why they, like Ymir was causing problems, right?
Mhm.
He was causing chaos. She was causing chaos. So they said the only way we can stop this is if we flood her out, and she'll drink all this thinking that it's blood, but really it's beer. So have a good time. And yeah, so it's interesting how both of those flood myths, we
Have
compare them
similar.
side by side, they're both doing kind of the same thing. They're
Yeah.
stopping a chaotic force. However, one was like the actual like death, while the other one was we're just gonna get you really, really drunk and just hope for the best.
Yeah. No, which in because she was drinking the blood, there are modern interpretations that have Sekhmet as she was the first vampire, and
Oh, for God's sake.
yeah. I believe that's part of like what is it, Castlevania? There's a deity slash vampire queen thing called Sekhmet, and I'm just like,
You know, for the record, vampires have more basis in Ireland, but you know.
yeah, that's why I'm like, what are you, what, I don't know, but yeah.
All right.
Speaking of death, not that we were, but we're going to. We're going to get into the first mummy, or the myth of Osiris. Now, this one, there are like a billion different versions of this that you can find, and there are different ones from earlier kingdoms, different ones from later kingdoms in the Egyptian history.
Can I tell the one I know? Can I tell the one I know real quick?
Sure.
Oh my god, I like this is like this was like abbreviated when I remember from high school version. But
Mhm.
basically Set and Osiris fought. No, they didn't fight. Osiris was sleeping. Set snuck in and chopped them up into billion pieces and spread them out throughout Egypt. Isis, through her grief, grew wings and actually went hunting for all the pieces while Horus and Ra fought Set, and she would actually find all of his pieces. I don't think they found it. She found his penis. I really, for some odd reason, that sticks out to me, and I don't know why. That she found all the pieces, bound him in pieces of cloth, which ended up creating the first mummy, and that's what I can remember. Because that's also the reason why a lot of the boxes that hold the jars. I can't remember what the jars are called. Canaphokic. I can't remember how it's pronounced. It's the jars that hold the organs, but the box that holds the jars typically has Isis with her wings spread on the corners, from what I remember from like a long time ago. But yeah, that's a story that I know.
That is very similar to the one I'm about to tell you. And that's where a lot of them differ in how Osiris ended up getting cut up and killed, and which deities helped Isis when she was finding him and trying to put him back together. This is the one that I was taught by my cultures of religion anthropology professor in college, and he learned it when he was in Egypt from a actual Egyptian scholar. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust that because they probably translated it pretty well, you know? But a lot of the differing opinions and things come from different regions of Egypt or different translations of how it was written. But it's long, so I'm only giving one of them. So Osiris was the replacement pharaoh for when Ra no longer wanted to be pharaoh. So he was kind of like the second pharaoh of Egypt in that version. It was said that he was a wise and benevolent king of Egypt who ruled with his sister wife Isis, and under his rule the land flourished. He taught humans about agriculture, laws, balance, and civilization. Now, if you remember from like the earlier creation myths, you had Osiris, Isis, and Nephthys, and these are all brothers and sisters. His brother Set, which was the god of chaos and storms, grew jealous and resentful and wanted the throne for himself. He didn't understand why Osiris had gotten it instead of him. Now let's get into the betrayal and murder. We said Osiris and Isis were married. Well, guess what? Set and Nephthys were also married. And in the version that I was told about, Nephthys is said to have become jealous of the relationship that Isis and Osiris had because Set was busy being upset and all Disney's Lion King scar about him not getting the throne. So she tricked a drunken Osiris into sleeping with her instead of Isis and ended up having a child by him. Now, again, depending on different mythologies, she had a child by him, and of those mythologies, there are other ones that are like, oh, it was Anubis. Oh, it was Thoth. Oh, it was like, she just had a child by him. I don't know which one, because I haven't been able to track that down. So, when Set saw this, he realized what had happened, and this was like the last like straw, pushed him over the edge. He decided he was going to get revenge on his brother not only for having the throne, but for his wife cheating on him, even though Osiris didn't know. So he hatched a plan. He built a beautiful, custom-sized sarcophagus and announced a game. Whoever fit perfectly inside it could keep it. And some of the other deities tried, a lot of humans tried, but the only one it fit was Osiris. So as soon as Osiris laid down in the sarcophagus, Set slammed the lid shut, sealed it with lead, and threw it into the bottom of the Nile. Osiris drowned and became the first being to die. Now, of course, Isis and Nephthys were both devastated, and through their grief, they both grew wings. So on the corners of the sarcophagi and on some of these canopic jars, you see these winged women, and some of them have different headdresses. One of them is Isis, one of them is Nephthys. Nephthys continued to mourn and grieve, and so she became a goddess of grieving those who have passed on. Isis, on the other hand, searched tirelessly for Osiris's body, eventually finding it lodged in a tree in Byblos, or modern-day Lebanon. She brought it back to Egypt and began magical rituals attempting to resurrect him, because Isis is a goddess of not only motherhood, but of magic. She was the magic deity if you needed magic at that time. Set discovered her attempting to bring Osiris back to life and flew into a rage, and he hacked Osiris into 14 pieces and scattered the pieces all across Egypt. Isis, along with her sister Nephthys, retrieved the pieces, all except for the phallus, which had been lost in the Nile. And again, differing stories. Some stories say that his phallus was eaten by a crocodile or the crocodile god Sobek. So Isis then sought out Anubis, who at that time lived in the desert and was also a god of magic, and he helped her mummify Osiris, replace his phallus with a magically crafted one, and through sorcery, Isis was able to conceive a child, Horus. Consequently, this is also why Anubis is the god of mummification. That's where that comes from. So let's get into Horus, the Avenger. Horus is the son of Osiris and Isis. He was raised in secret, and when he came of age, he challenged Set for the throne of Egypt. The gods held a divine court to settle the matter, and after many trials and battles, some versions have more humorous trials, a lot of them have more violent battles, or just a flat-out battle between Horus and Set. Horus eventually defeated Set and was crowned the king. So Osiris is the first being to die, the first being to be mummified, and he was mummified. He was not fully resurrected in the mortal realm, so he was actually reborn into the Duat, the underworld, and he is a deity, so he became the judge of the dead, sitting in the Hall of Maat, where the souls were judged by the weighing of the heart. And The reasoning behind this differs between myths, but the way I was told it, even after everything Set did to him, the other deities were like, oh, well, what should be Set's punishment? And Osiris was like, he was jealous. I'm not gonna, like, create a big, horrible punishment for him. Send him to the deserts for, I don't remember how many years or whatever. But even then, he was, like, very balanced. So they were like, okay, well, you're gonna become the judge of the dead. If you can be this impartial on something that affected you this much, you can judge whether the scales are balanced.
I love that.
Yeah. So there you have the whole death and resurrection, promise of rebirth after death, that kind of makes him like the savior version in, if you want to compare it to Jesus. That's kind of the closest comparison you have there. Any questions on that section?
Nothing. I like that.
It is one of my favorite myths from Egyptian mythology. Is pretty cool. My absolute favorite is, of course, the Sekhmet, but, you know.
I like the
Alright.
theme of balance in that. I like the theme of forgiveness between Osiris and Set. I think that's really sweet.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I can understand people worshiping Set. He is like chaos and things, god of storms, all of that, because he and Osiris are kind of like
It's
balanced.
just
Like,
it's just sibling beef. But yeah, order and chaos. I see it.
all right, let's see. If we don't have any questions on that, we're going to look at the idea of the whole world-ending apocalypse.
All right.
There isn't one in Egyptian mythology. There's no direct equivalent to Ragnarok or the end times in the Christian revelations. Egyptian religion was deeply centered on cyclical time, eternal rebirth, daily renewal of the order of cosmic order or mat. They don't really have like a single world-ending event. The closest they have to that is Ra's journey through the Duat and his fight with Apep. So every single night, the world is constantly threatened by chaos. And through Ra's fight and through all of the souls who lived in the field of reeds, they're fighting against Apep and chaos. The other gods are helping out, but every single night, Apep and Ra battle so that the cosmic order and balance is reborn with the sun in the day when Ra triumphs over Apophis or Apep. So it's kind of like a constant, like, we all have to be balanced. We all have to like make sure that everything is working, or chaos will win and the world will fall into disorder, destruction, and chaos. So it's kind of just more ongoing cosmic tension. Let's go with that. Any questions on that? There's not a lot to say there.
It got nothing. You summed it up pretty well. I like it.
Yeah. I'm like, that one's pretty straightforward.
Not much to say about that.
How dare they not have an end of the world story? That hurts my feelings.
How
I
dare they
mean,
be different from the rest of the world?
the closest they get is kind of like the Sekhmet destruction of mankind thing, but mostly it's just like, okay, everybody keep balance, keep the world working, it'll be fine.
And that's when the Moon Knight steps in, right?
Yeah, totally. I know when you did Norse mythology, you kind of looked at like the idea of like a savior parallel. The closest to that in Egyptian mythology are either Osiris or Horus, depending on how you look at it. I mean, Osiris is the one who literally essentially kind of comes back from the dead, but he's like Lord of the Afterlife, came back from the dead, not like walking on the earth with everybody, kind of came back from the dead. And then Horus is like the restoring order and balance type side of it. There's not really like a savior like Jesus parallel that's like straightforward.
So, my question, because I'm just sitting here thinking about it, do you think that maybe, I mean, because Egypt is like ancient. I mean, like, they go into the what I like to call the negatives on numbers. Do you think that maybe the reason why some of the stories, such as a savior myth or a like a like when I say true flood myth, but like a flood myth and like end of the world myth, do you think the reason they don't have one is maybe because it hasn't been found, or maybe because they didn't have any Christian influence against them because Christianity wasn't a thing during that time? Like, that's because I'm trying to be like, how do we have those kind of gaps?
So I think that for like the Jesus side of things, if you look at certain translations of the Osiris myth, it was very much put through a Christian lens to make it feel more like Jesus, like, oh, you just called them different things, but really you were already Christian, so why not just convert? But as far as like the flood myth, there is a flood myth in every single culture. I believe that the reasoning why they have it as Sekhmet and then the whole flood of beer and everything, my scientific mind says there was some kind of plague or maybe a waterborne illness that was killing a lot of people. And then when the Nile flooded and cleared out all of the polluted, people stopped dying. So I think that's where that myth came from. Because if you look at like red water, there's the red tide in the ocean that is like a bacteria. So you're not supposed to like go in the water or like eat fish when there's a red tide, you know? That would check out to me like, oh, okay, red water, and then people stop dying. It feels like there was something going on environmentally that then cleared it out. So if you're going to look at it from a scientific standpoint, that's how I see that. But yeah.
There's also a theory that since Jerusalem, Egypt, and Babylon were all more or less in the same distinct area, there was some kind of massive weather phenomenon that induced the flood myth, but that can't be confirmed.
Aren't they saying that there might have been like a giant tsunami that caused like,
Yes.
yeah. I think I've seen that one.
It's possible, but again, we'll never know. So
Yeah. That's the thing. I'm like,
Aliens.
yep, it was the
we're not
aliens.
blaming aliens for this.
The pyramids!
My word.
I mean, if you think about it, it's interesting how when you look at how the pyramids are lined up, they do align with Orion's belt.
This does not need to be the Ancient Aliens recap.
No, but I mean that's something that's been commonly known for a long time is that the pyramids of Giza do line up with Orion's belt. But it's just the same way like the Mayans, if you think about this too. They followed the stars because they stay pretty consistent for the most part.
And Orion's belt is a pretty easily seen and like known constellation.
Right.
There's also the thought among archaeologists that the pharaohs specifically decided where they wanted their pyramids so it would line up like that, so it looked more like, oh, they had a divine right to rule type thing.
Yeah. Because that's the whole thing you have to remember too about your pharaohs and pharaohesses and stuff like that. They were supposed to be the gods walking on earth. That's also why you kept your bloodline as that's why when you look at a lot of your ancient Egypt bloodlines, they're
Very,
sticks.
very close.
They are very friendly, we shall say.
Uh-huh.
Your
But in the
brother and
family
sister,
doesn't
you're
work.
going to have sex and have more babies. Wait, what?
They have an arm growing out of their neck.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually look at how they have recreated, rest his soul, King Tut, the boy king, he had clubfoot, he had a cleft palate, he had a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of genetic defects
Yeah.
from
Deformities.
because of the inbreeding. But for them, for, anyone who worships gods, it's like, oh, you look closer to the gods than anything else. You must be holier than thou. So it's the same way like how in India where children may be born with certain defects, but if a child's born with an extra arm, it's like, oh, they must be, a descendant of Shiva
They
or
must belong to
something.
this deity. They should go to the temple and become a priest.
Right. So it's like there's always, which India's not because of inbreeding. I think that's more because of pollution situations and mutagenic stuff like that. I mean, Cleopatra was supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the world. Was she? I don't know.
But here's my thing. You have a lot placed on like, oh, well, Cleopatra must have been the most beautiful woman in the world. We can look at like the coins from her rule and she looked okay. But also, here's the thing. She was the queen of Egypt and she had a lot of political alliances. Like she was smart, even more than she was said to be beautiful at that time.
It's like, who was going to tell her she wasn't?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, she was supposedly supposed to be a woman who was supposed to be like Helen of Troy kind of situation. She could turn. Was Cleopatra one of the ones who was able to turn a navy around just by looking at him or something like that? I can't remember. But it's like when you look at these pedigree charts for these Egyptian kings and queens and pharaohs and pharaohesses and however you want to put it, they are very, very, very singular.
Like I said, they
And
keep it in the family.
and it's a couple of them even have a couple of circulars in there from backtracking to grandpa or mom or
Maybe
dad.
even a couple of hexagons.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Targaryens had it right in Game of Thrones. So, yeah, we don't have to go into the ancient alien thing because I do enjoy ancient aliens because some of that stuff does kind of, it's like, you have enough evidence that makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, you're starting to pull, you're grasping at straws a little bit. But,
Also, not every structure from human history is, alien. I would
yeah.
not give some
Give us
like
some credit.
exactly like give some credit to our ancestors. Like,
I
what you
mean, how
doing?
did we make the pyramids? There's got to be a way that we made the pyramids and like moved all those things, and they've gotten pretty close. Like trying to figure out ways that they could have figured out how to do it. Because just because we can't think about it because our technology is so advanced versus theirs, they could figure things out a little bit easier because it's like, oh, well, we do this on a daily basis. You know, we had to figure stuff out. Tools were a thing.
Well, think
So,
about it. What is it? The Moai on Easter Island, the colonizers, let's call them what they were, colonizers who went there, were like, "Oh my God, how did they move these statues? How did you move them? They're enormous." And they literally told them they walk. And how did more, like, there was like a documentary, like, in the last 5 years or something, maybe eight, I don't know, where they literally, like, went through, like, okay, how could you move this? Did you roll it on trees? Did you do this? Did you do that? And the easiest way is they literally had teams of people essentially playing tug of rope on either side of this big moai, walking it across the lawn, essentially.
because if you think about it, this is an example of something that's amazing. If you look at it, like if people from like a hardware store bring you a new fridge, they have this. They no longer use dollies that much anymore. They actually use two people and a strip of. It's either a fabric or a rubber or something. They
Mhm.
both stand on either side of it and they lift it with the rubber like attached to a belt around their waist and they
Literally.
walk it inside because that is learning how what's it called, what's the word, that's understanding physics on some way because not
Exactly.
every house is going to have a ramp where you're going to be able to pull a fridge up a dolly, right? So hey, let's do this. Hey, this might work if we do it like this, and they walk it to where it is. I remember seeing a comic though about the moai a long time ago, and it was the head is where is in the Polynesian islands and the toes are Stonehenge.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good like giggle when I saw it a long time ago.
But there's probably a very simple answer to how they managed to build the pyramids and get all of the stones where they were going and like the columns to the temples and everything.
Well,
Makes
even then, the
sense.
columns, if you look at them, they look like they're just section stone.
Exactly.
So what they probably did is they did what they were supposed to do back then. They carved into it and made it look really pretty, and they rolled the sucker to where it was going to go.
And they probably used like a pulley system to lift it. There you go.
Right. And the reason why we don't see the pulley system and existing is because it's rope and wood, probably of some sort.
Yeah.
And rope and wood deteriorate over time, especially for a civilization that was basically in the 80s.
hmm Thousands of years old. Yeah.
Right.
And
When you're
also sand.
when you're
It's like this is very
literal.
straightforward. This is not something to complicate.
Yeah, but the problem is we as humans we try to make it as complicated. We as we've gotten further into our life cycle as humans is we try to make things a lot more complicated than they need to be.
hmm
Because it's like we could probably do this, but let's make it hover. And it's like, okay, if you can figure out how to make something hover, go for it. And we don't know what the landscape looked like thousands of years ago. It could have been completely different.
Exactly. Especially in a country that has so much desert and sand. That stuff shifts like nobody's business. All right. So the last section I had for tonight is regarding more modern practice. So modern practitioners who follow the ancient Egyptian religion are often called Kemetic, or it's called Kemeticism, Kemetism, somewhere in that realm. Core beliefs are, of course, you are venerating or worshiping the Netjeru, which are the Egyptian gods and goddesses. So Ra, Isis, Anubis, Sekhmet, fill in the blank. They may focus on one or more deities or just focus on a specific group. So some people might worship Osiris, Isis, Horus, or some might worship only Ra, or some might worship Osiris, Anubis, Sobek. Like they don't necessarily come from the same myth groupings. You have to believe in Mat, which is the cosmic balance, ethical behavior, reciprocity of things that you do, community, harmony. All of those are emphasized. Offerings, regular offerings, usually of like bread, honey, water, incense, flowers, and wine are the most common. And those can be made on your home altars. Practitioners often use reconstructed hymns or prayers from texts such as pyramid texts or coffin texts or the Book of the Dead, any of those. They also can create their own. They also usually celebrate festivals, or the ones that we've been able to decipher, such as Wep Rompet, which is the Egyptian New Year. There's the Feast of Opet, the Festival of Anubis, the Feast of Sekhmet, so on and so forth. These will usually involve special prayers, music. Some of them have reenactments. Depends on how you choose to celebrate. And then they often use symbols such as the Ankh, jed pillars, and scarabs. You usually have your home altar or shrine. Usually it has a statue or image of your deity, candles. A lot of people put water on their altars. I cannot do that. Otherwise it just becomes a cat bowl. And daily rite.
I love that.
Oh yeah. Daily rites might include, if you are a strict Kemetic pagan, the opening of the shrine, which is adapted from temple rituals, and you do that every morning. You might do recitation of prayers or invocations, meditations. I don't do those because I'm not strictly Kemetic pagan. There is a house. I have never looked into this one, but I found it randomly. It's called the House of Netjer. It's a Kemetic orthodoxy. It's organized by a founder by the name of Reverend Tamara Siuda and combines reconstructed temple rituals with personal devotional practice. And you can actually be initiated into Kemetic orthodoxy and receive a Kemetic name and a divination-based deity assignment.
Can I see something? Sounds a little sketch.
I'm like, I don't know about that one. I've never met anybody who is part of that religion. I don't know. That you are assigned a deity sounds a little weird. It might have just been like how I found it online. I don't know. You also have reconstructionists who reconstruct based off of archaeological records and scholarship, trying to stay as close to ancient Egyptian religions as possible. Or you have eclectic or syncretic Kemetism, which is kind of what I am, where they blend Kemetic practices with other spiritual traditions, and they kind of like pick and choose, pull from different deities and different parts. Let's see. I think that's everything I have, actually.
Right, I love it. God. I'll look at what AJ just sent later.
I just saw it. It's an image of modern day Anubis. That's hilarious.
Good
How
lord.
dare you use my government name, Bramble?
It's okay, we'll cut that part.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that's everything I had for tonight. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns, letters from home?
Letters from home. I got nothing.
I got a Dear John letter. Do I read it?
Sure. We can make a section for that.
Wait, like just now?
No, that was a joke.
Whoa.
We can always add those in later.
I thought you were being serious.
Well, I think that's everything we have for Egyptian mythology and paganism for this go round. I believe the episode after this is Celtic, right, Bramble?
Yeah.
It's gonna be super fun.
We're going to be talking about Celtic, specifically Irish, because that's what I know best, and the combination with Christian witchcraft.
Okay, I like it. So in that case, we can go ahead and we will close out for this evening and look forward to our next episode.
Right.
Let's head towards the thing because this was actually really informative and I kind of enjoyed hearing about it because it's like I know some Egyptian mythology, but I never really got as heavy or deep into it as I have like Greek mythology and stuff like that.
I feel that I was one of those Egyptian mythology kids. You know
read
those
the King
books?
Chronicles, didn't you?
No, surprisingly I didn't, but I did have that Egyptology book.
So did I. I loved it as a kid.
It was so cool. Honestly, one of the reasons that I started leaning into anthropology. So there you go.
Nice.
All right. So, and we're going to have a closing prayer. Duat Anpu, beloved guide, who walks with us in darkness and light, we offer you our deepest thanks for your watchful presence and quiet strength. With gentle hand and steady gaze, you led us through shadow and doubt. Guardian of the threshold, opener of the way, you shield us from unseen harm, and whisper truth into our hearts. For your guidance and wisdom, I honor you with gratitude, and speak your name in reverence. May our hearts remain as light as Mat, and may we walk with dignity, touched by your blessing. Dua Anpu, Hail Anubis.